I feel like there's nobody on my level, too sick in the head. I'm co-signed by the devil like a cokehead with these dope lines that I cut up getting roadhead. Every time I ride instrumentals, I've been in the booth with a bomb strapped to me. My nuts so big that my ball sack's drooping. I'm about to pull up in an all-black hoop. You better catch me if you can, like the Tom Hanks move. Now it's mission impossible, I'ma hit him like domino. Started killing all these beats and now they think I'm responsible. I was chilling like a villain, but this shit is intolerable. I'm a killer with the lyrics, all I sick is a comical. They all want a piece.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another Archons Corner. I'm Dr. Sheep, and like always, I got Ewok.
Hello, Keyforge community.
And Big Z with me.
Hey, here we are.
And no WOOKIE.
Oh, shock.
We miss you, Oaks.
But, if you're a Patreon, because we have one of them Patreon things, you can go give some money, and WOOKIE did record something and put there, so you can go listen to that. So there is actually something for the Patreon.
Sweet.
That's exciting, right?
It is.
Yeah. So, I think we intend to be doing some more Patreon-only discussion stuff, or some other things for that to, support that part of our show. But we're here to just talk general Keyforge, right?
That's right.
What's been happening for Keyforge across the last week, guys?
Let's see. Well, of course, we have to always figure out why Dan sucks at Keyforge, right?
So this week, I went with the when you can't play, you coach or judge, right? So I actually judged this week because I suck so bad I shouldn't be playing. But Ewok, why do you suck at Keyforge?
Yeah, this one is all for me. Got lined up, and it comes from my notes. So underestimate your opponent's deck. And I'll give you here's the precursor coming up. I didn't make our top 8. I know. Hang my head. I'm letting the team down again. I'm letting the Archons area, but I had fun. The big piece is honestly underestimating my opponent's deck. Game 1, I go ahead. I'm looking across the deck. I get deck information in my 2 minutes. I look and go, man, this deck really doesn't have the Amber control. I'm looking. I'd seen a Xeno training, an Evil Eye, information exchange, and it drops from there. There's nothing. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I see that there is quite a bit of efficiency, 27. It is Worlds Collide, and it is Star Alliance, and I know it is going to go ahead and try and push for Star Alliance. I have multiple board wipes. I should be perfectly fine. However, I underestimated this deck because it was a triple Kirby Veil Jericho deck, along with a Mimic Gel. And the person running it and pilot knew it well and was able to drop 3 of those creatures immediately from Star Alliance. And the piece that I had underestimated is the Dis House went ahead and only had 5 creatures. It had Obsidian Forge, and it had all of these actions. And with Kirby, that's exactly what you want to be able to see. And so they didn't need to call a single other house. They didn't need to go anywhere else. And I did not have an immediate response. And when I say immediate, even though I had 2 wipes, I had a lot of direct damage, I could remove things, I can't wait until turn 3. And that's what I saw. This deck just absolutely tore me apart. I lost 3-0. I haven't lost that bad in a while, but I definitely underestimated this deck. I was looking at it, I'm like, this deck is good. I knew what its goal was, but I still underestimated how good that deck really was and what it could do in the matchup that it had.
For sure. Mine was, I have kind of a similar experience. I was playing literally yesterday, and my deck had multiple answers to a board. I looked at my opponent's deck list. They were playing a Mim. I saw that it did have Sins, but it really didn't have Grim Reminder or anything that really made me worry about that. So I was up 2 keys to 1. I was on autopilot, flinging out the cards, not caring about anything, and then on his turn, he gatewayed and then played Wrath, Gluttony, Pride, and Greed. And I was like, with all of the stuff in my own deck that could immediately answer this, and one of which I literally discarded the last turn because I discarded a Red Alert, I'm up 2-1 here. I should have won this game because what I am seeing right now, which is obviously on his deck list, was the only way the deck could beat me based on the state of the game as it was prior to my previous turn. But again, I could kind of say that wasn't me paying attention to the deck list. I had rationalized the deck list, but I think I just underestimated it in its totality that I would ever, because like when you feel that a deck has a certain amount of threat level, you look for what you need to hold for. You like, well, do I need to hold on to a TMTP to counter a draft or whatever? Do I need to hold on to a stealth mode to try to forward if they have high steal actions? Like, because you're worried about your opponent's deck. So same thing happened to me. It wasn't in a major event. I was just kind of testing some decks I was shopping around for. Definitely did lose that game because I just flat out underestimated my opponent's deck. For sure.
Yeah, I think I underestimate often when they have something like Sins or a silly Untamed House from Coda, but they're missing one of the houses that helps sets up. So I go, yeah, I mean, like, sure, you could double Dust Pixie, Nature's Call, then Joda, but your deck has no efficiency, so I'm just not going to worry about it. And then they do it. Like, I think that's where I underestimate the most is when I just go, well, your deck doesn't have efficiency, which means you're never going to do any of that stuff because that's how the game plays for me. So I assume that's how the game's going to play for you. And yeah, like you're saying with that with Sins deck, you know, if you see that Grim Reminder, you get a lot more serious about planning to have to deal with a board of Sins. Without the Grim Reminder, you just hope they come out piecemeal and you get to kill them. But there is that chance that they just come out in a clump. Same with the Starlines. Like when you see a deck wants to do a big Starline thing, you're just going, well, hopefully it comes out a little piecemeal. I get to deal with it. And it goes on, and then they have that, 4 or 5 card turn to open. You're just like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, it goes bad real quick when you see 4 Starlines come down on the board as turn 1. Yeah.
I guess like now that I think about it, the most significant version of sucking for this is why I lost at a vault in day 1 during the Swiss for the Nuremberg. I was paired up with a really good control deck. I was on Inferno versus crazy Australian guy, and I looked at the deck list. It was AOA. I scanned it real quick and just tossed it back to him because it was AOA. It's like whatever. It was super close, and had I been paying a little bit more attention, I definitely would have won the game because I had a lot of the lines that I had played and things that I once again could have held on to had I really thought about it. But I did lose the game, and it again, like 100% because I underestimated the deck list. It was to this day that deck is still one of the best AOA decks I am aware of. But again, had I really paid attention to the deck list, I would have seen all of that. Because it had multiple Exhumes, multiple Ronnies, had a Chota, not finished with you. The deck plays Ronnie about 8 times a game on average. I have ways to answer that in the deck I was playing, but if you're not paying attention, you're not answering things that you didn't pay attention to answer. So yeah, like I did lose a vault game 100% because I underestimated an opponent's deck. Yeah, and well, Phil beat me. It happened.
That's one of the other things, like, I think is a key to this a little bit, is if you get handed a deck in an Archon format, especially if you're not on round 1 or 2, and you get the deck handed to you and you go, and you start to underestimate it, you're like, this should be a really easy game, I don't see their game plan, that's when you really need to stop yourself and go, what is the game plan? Because there was the AOA deck that was Top Cut in Survival at Albany. Like, a lot of people had trouble with that because seeing that AOA's strategy, which was...
Oh, you're talking about the Sting Chota recursion? That was the one, right? I think that was it. Yeah, because I've played that before.
It's a double Untamed... What's the guy's name? Double Untamed Ambassador deck. So it plays kind of like New Age Star Alliance, where you just keep calling in his case, Sanctum, and you just got to play all your Untamed out anyways. Kind of like what Star Alliance does. It played similar to that, but back when, well, I guess at that point, World's Pride was live, but like people don't expect that from AOA.
Yeah.
Ever since then,
Well,
I've always been
people don't expect AOA in general.
Yeah, I've been watching for a good double ambassador deck, but like Kirby decks, every time I find one, it's got like 6 cards. You can play with it in the whole deck, and you're like, well, that's not enough for this to work.
But I think the ambassadors of now are going to be suffering from the same thing Guntus is going to suffer from now. Like when you go up against an MM deck with 6 damage pips, those cards are dead, like auto dead, unless you have a lot of creature protection. So I don't know. I think it's hard to play those 1 power, like Dusk Witch was never really relevant, but like those 1 power creatures are. Meta's so swinged towards MM because it's very competitive.
Why don't you tell us about this new MM meta a bit?
I think that's enough about why we suck. We've got 3 examples.
Yeah.
So yes, KFPL, we ran the double free open Archon qualifier. So there was not UK, but like an international time event and then a North American timed event. We ran that all Saturday. Lots of games were played. We have, I think, in total 6 new people qualified for the KFPL. But I think the most significant thing to come out of that is some of the data, because that's what Archon's Corner is here to do, to talk about what's going on in Keyforge. So not only the events is what's significant about it. So people are always talking about like the meta. Like I'm big on MM. I love the set. I've been saying I'm just not sure how competitive it's going to be. I'm hopeful for it. But I really want to see it come to how it's doing in big events. Face it, right now, this is as big as we got. Like, we don't have anything else. We have, like, KFPL for big events. We've got some fun leagues going on with Coat and ABR. Outside of that, this is us. So, Muffins, one of our KFPL folks internally, did some work and put all of the data at crazykillingbmachinenetwork.co.uk. Hopefully we'll get this link up so we can just click on it later. But I think we can take turns of what's interesting in data to each of us. The most interesting thing to me personally is if you take the 2 top 8s from Event 1 and Event 2, you have 16 total top 8 decks. Out of those 16 top 8 decks, 9 of them were MM decks. There was 1 overlapping deck that was the same deck played. Oh, no, it wasn't. That deck was not in Event 1. It didn't make top 8, Event 1. So, yeah, those were 9 unique MM decks out of the top 16 from 2 top 8 decks.
Finchmaster was on might have top 8'd the previous one. I'm not certain. It's a Hamburg Atlantean deck. Oh, but
that means it is possible, but still.
That's a Coda deck anyway, so.
Yeah, no. I don't think any of the MM decks. The only one that I think would have had the shot would have been Ugluk's deck, but he didn't top 8 in the first event. He didn't even top 6.
No.
So yeah, that's 9 different, very competitive. And this was a very competitive environment. You just heard Ewok talk about he got kind of wrecked the first 3 rounds. He did win 1 though. But
let's be very clear. I got super wrecked in round 1, and then I did much better after that, but I still only won 1, so take it for what it is.
Yeah, I think so. Information is pretty centered around top 16, which is a good place. But I think looking at the top 6, is it 5MM and a Coda? Is that what got?
I mean, there's not really a top 6. It's top 8, then top 4.
No, the 6 qualifying decks. The 6
qualifying
decks, I think, were 5MM and a Coda.
I think that is.
I'm not 100% certain. I'm pretty certain about the 1 Coda. Obviously, there couldn't have been any Coda in the first one.
Because the second event, I know the finals was double MM.
Yep.
In the first event, it was almost all MM.
I think actually in the US time one, or the second one, it was 2 MM decks versus 2 Coda decks was the top 4.
No, because Aeroyak and I'm going to totally mispronounce this.
Oh no.
Our eventual winner, Malcion Garibo. I apologize ahead of time for mispronouncing that. Who ended up eventually win. I thought both of those were MM.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2 were MM. Actually, I think George,
But-
GJ999, he was also on MM.
Yeah, I think the top 4 all had MM for the second running.
Aeroyak was on Coda Deck.
But you are right, though. Now that I'm looking at it, it is 5 out of 6 of the top 6, since there was a playoff for third spot. 5 out of 6 of those were MM. So there was the lone Coda deck that did make third place in the second quote.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, and during I was helping Jupiter live stream some of the second event, and we were reviewing some of the stats from the first event at that point, and I was on my tear about how Coda is dead because there was no Coda in the top 8 of the early event.
The early event, yeah. But then we come over to the North American one.
It's like a 50-50. It's 4 MM and 4 Coda or something in the top 8.
I think the most significant about that, because when we were looking at some of the meta of the vaults earlier in 2020, Worlds Collide was huge. It was the point where you were definitely, like, Coda was still there, but I think at some point we had a top 4 where there was 3 Worlds Collide and 1 Coda. Galaxy ended up winning that, but the other 3 decks in the top 4 were all Worlds Collide. We were seeing tons of Dinosaurs, tons of Furnace, to the point where it's basically you either have a nuts Coda deck, right, or you go Worlds Collide. And now, if we look at the top 8 in both of these, Worlds Collide basically disappears.
Well, I mean, it was represented in the first one. It was a 5-3 cut in top 8.
Yeah. But I mean, when you take a total of 16, like, that's only 3 decks.
Well, let's talk about all the AOA decks that were in there. Okay,
0.
Let's talk about some
as expected. The funny thing is, we talk about, like, how certain decks are there are like 4 decks that people know of that are 4 of the best AOA decks, because it can happen. It's just exceedingly rare to happen, and people know these 4 decks. One of those decks was played in Event 1. It went 3-3 or something. It went X3. So
I was surprised. There was actually significantly more. There were 8 AOA decks that showed up to the late event. None of them
in the total registration? Yeah, none of them. I don't believe that Sasha, which is one of the best AOA decks, I don't believe it was played in Event 2, but it was. I was told later that it was played in Event 1 and didn't even make the X2, which is rough. That's a phenomenal deck. I mean, it just tells us what the field is like.
I saw a lot of Eaton's Jar around, and any Martian Generosity deck doesn't want to see a jar.
No. Like, I've seen actually, if any deck can, Sasha does have enough Amber in general and as the buggy to control, to possibly survive not hitting its Jenka combo just by playing Martian Generosity and having all your cards. But most other Jenka decks are just dead in the water if they see Jar. All right. What was interesting for you, Ewok? Well, we got a lot of data here. You played in the event. What stood out the most from you from our Archon qualifier?
I actually really enjoyed watching the game. And this was the final game that took place in the second version for our KFPL. So it was between Ugluck and then it's the individual I can't say, and I apologize. But they were going ahead, and we're pretty sure they're piloting Gargoyle. And so seeing both of those MM decks face off against each other, I found it extremely interesting at the amount of pips that were on the cards. I thought that both had Armor Officer Nell. There were some similarities between them. But the game of Keyforge that I was definitely used to from Coda seems slightly different from this matchup. Absolutely impressive to watch both of those players play. And I think that's what's important, to be able to see how cards match up. I also want to give a huge shout out to Kate. I think the material that she put together for Crazy and Killing Machine here is very well done, easy to read, very well laid out. And there's a number of times that I'll be able to go through and read and then pull out even more information. So absolutely phenomenal to look at. And then I do want to give a big shout out to our own D-Champ from Archon's Corner, who did make the farthest placement for any of our Archon's Corner friends. So way to represent making that top 16. And he was doing it with a strong coda with Sanctum, if nothing else there. So very, very interesting how you would never picture Sanctum for coda, but there are, again, some of those decks have some amazing pieces.
He's also trying to show that Sass isn't the determiner because his deck was only a 72 priest something or another.
Yep.
72
Priest Eva.
Yep.
Yeah, one of our teammates made it in to the KFPL season 2 by coming in second. Echo Ito was second place in the first qualifier because that's near his time zone. So that was cool.
Yeah, I guess we should go through for the first time zone too. Big shout out to Lorenzo99 taking the win, Echo Ito taking second there, and then it looks like Vince UK came in third. And I hadn't recognized this name, but I saw him in the second matchup, him or her. Again, I put in him, but I actually don't know. And that was, it looks like Jose MMB97. So congratulations.
All good stuff. Our North American cohorts on the other side did not fare too well in making the KFL Season 2, but we've got next week, before we move on from the KFPL stuff, we have sealed qualifier. So if you feel like you're just don't have the decks it can handle, or if you're like Ewok here, consistently choose not the best of your own decks, you can come crack a sealed pool, pick one of those, and play for sealed qualification. See how that goes.
That's a whole nother reason of why I suck at Keyforge. Don't handicap yourself by playing a really poor deck. Use that term very, very loosely, but yeah, choose your best. Be smart about it. Think about the meta, and there's a lot of information to digest from what Kate had just put out.
So yeah, I do have my tip for sealed for next week. If you're listening, make sure you really look at your mass mutation poll because it's self-assigning pips. So you can make some real crazy stuff happen if your deck permits it. Right?
Oh, I can give a tip for next week. I know I'm running the thing, but guys, if you haven't noticed now, creature control is more important than it's ever been. It's always been important in sealed as is. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your deck for the sealed event.
Yep, C is almost more important than A now.
Okay, and since we are running sealed on Tuesday, we did do sealed. I need both of your thoughts real quick, and it's not on the show notes, it's not here. But when you see and you see certain houses like Shadows, and you have a really important artifact like Autoencoder, are you playing Autoencoder in a sealed environment?
Yes.
Yes. But I feel real bad about it.
Okay.
Early in the event, yes. Later in the event, hopefully my team has scouted and lets me know.
It's great. I don't know how many did we have on Tuesday sheet. We had quite a few again.
We had 10 people playing Mass Mutation Sealed.
And it's just one of those that I don't know if I could. I know the deck, so many decks are absolutely dependent on your autoencoder, but man, on my side, when I could borrow that autoencoder, it just made my deck hum that much quicker. It was brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
Touch that in our cards you can't play, which is artifacts when you see Hawk, because those decks were already good. Like, you're playing against somebody with a good deck already. You cannot afford to let them take your efficiency cards and make their deck better. It is so bad that
I know we had talked about it. Yeah, I know we had talked. Yeah, I know we had talked about it in Archon, so that's interesting with sealed, and that's why I wanted to quickly throw it out. So
yeah, we've talked about that internally as a team a long time ago. So, I think if a deck has Shadows, there was a 15% chance it would have any given one uncommon. So, if your opponent has Shadows and their I believe Borrow is uncommon. So 15% chance versus playing one of the most, accelerating cards in the game that is autoencoder or something devastating like Amphora, like you got to play the card, right? Now, if it is round 5 and they have shadows, obviously they're winning for a reason. Does the math change there? I was always under the impression it does change, so I would be a little bit more careful about playing around TMTP, but that's like gaining a little bit less amber, though, right? Not playing your autoencoder or your M4 is a whole different story. I think I definitely still play those artifacts.
Nice. Sweet. There's your tip of the week, everyone, from much better players than me. And that borrow is uncommon, so you were right.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine it being common.
No.
So I'm glad that's not common.
Hawk is bad enough at a common.
Yeah, like Hawk at a common. I mean, at least because it is uncommon, it does actually blow up their own artifacts often enough. Because a lot of people blow up really good artifacts as it's still 2 amber. It's hard to pass that up.
Yep.
So at least like that has a slight negative, but borrow has no negative. If it was printed uncommon, it's either a pip or a steel artifact that becomes shadow. It's so gross. Like it's real good. So yeah. All right. Well, that covers all that. Well, I think Dan's got something, right?
Yeah, we.
Did I skip something?
No, I think we're good. Yeah. So we've been talking internally. Like we saw some of you came to the Twitch and saw the video of all the OP kits that I now have to give away. So we were discussing how do we actually give them away. And what we've come up with is the gauntlet. We're thinking big. So here we're talking about one of those Shadows figurines. So I got those Shadows figurines. Very few of them in the wild. I think there's very few of them even in distribution. Like there's just not a lot of them. Period.
So to be very clear, explicit about this, this is actually a truly rare piece of OP at the moment. Like for all we know, they could end up shipping in the States more. But as of right now, there are not many of these minifigures that we know to exist. Is that accurate? We good there?
That is accurate.
Okay. Because I want one real bad. How does anyone earn one through this gauntlet?
So what we're talking about is the gauntlet, which is going to be a big event, but we also want to make it a big event. So what we've come up with is a 4-deck, 4-set survival tournament. That means there's going to be a lot of rounds, right? We think it's going to be all 4 sets. You got to bring a Coda, an AOA, a Worlds Collide, and a Mass Mutation deck.
So I can bring Akari, 96 sass. Crush people. Yes?
No. Wait for the next line.
Got excited.
Yes. So, in addition to challenging the gauntlet and being equipped with your decks, you have to be thrifty, and you only get 75 sass per deck. So each deck has to be a 75 sass or less deck. We don't want Z to show up with Akari and Galaxy and make the rest of us cry. Like, that's no fun. Then once we see he register, we all just go home. Right? That's no good. So
fair enough.
We felt like if we sass cap it, that will definitely bring it as open it up to more players, right? But
many of you have already been collecting those 75 sass cap decks because you played with it in the Triad for KFPL.
Yeah,
so
KFPL is a real big fan of the 75 number, so hint, be on the eye if you see some good ones out there. You might want to grab them, because every other one of our events will be SAS cap, basically, and 75 seems to be the number we are happy with.
Yeah, 75 is a very good number. You get good decks, but they're also quite openable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone seems to have a couple solid 75-ish area decks.
So, all right, so the next thing is you have to be fast to survive our gauntlet, right? We want this to get done, especially with the number of rounds. We want it to get done, and we want to eliminate decks. So any games that go to time during this will result in both decks being eliminated. That's also going to probably shift people to picking a little bit more of a racing deck than a Grunt Buggy control deck. And we're also going to be heavily enforcing the don't be a rainbow ploy, which is don't bring your Heart of the Forest deck just to eliminate somebody else's deck. That's not it's not going to go well, and I will be.
I hear you. So don't be a jerk is the primary rule as far as that rule goes.
Yes.
But man, let's make sure people let that sit in. If your game goes to time, both decks are eliminated. Dun dun.
Out.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go ahead and voice my opinion here for all of us amazingly talented individuals with a different speed. But I understand what you're doing and why we're doing this with the gauntlet. So this is part of the challenge. We need you to be fast and keep that in mind. I just hope there are no hard feelings because, man, those end of time rules are already feel bad moments. Let's see how it goes.
Now it's going to feel real bad to just lose your deck. All right, so you got to be dedicated, right? Because now it totally depends on number of entrants, and that makes a big difference. But if we got 48 entrants, we would be talking about a 17-round event, probably. So what we have penciled is 2 7-round weekends. So 2 Saturdays in a row where we run 7 rounds each weekend, which should be less than 6 hours per day because these are 35-minute rounds. No figuring out tiebreakers at the end. People will probably be bringing fast decks, so they'll probably be faster than 35-minute rounds. So, it should be less than 6 hours on any day. That's including a break. So, although it's long days, it's not that bad. We start at the same time as KFPL. That seems like a pretty good start time, which is that 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern. Which gets you done by dinner. So you can still go have dinner with the family and not get in too much trouble. And then after the 2 major weekends, we're just going to go into more like a league-style play for whatever games that are left. And hopefully Ewok and myself might be able to record them like we did when we did the Power Level 8 bracket, so we could record some of these games, talk about them. Going to have to be invested, right? So we are going to have to charge an entry fee to cover the cost of prize support. I think $10. He thinks $15 because I have to do a lot of work. But I sell myself cheap. I'm easy.
When this is a store, I was mainly talking about the store, but you're
and that confident. Is all the money from this goes. Any profits that there are go to the store. Talk about in a minute. But so that's like the core of it. So then there's obviously the rewards, which is we have the Dusk Runner statue. We have everything else that's in that Shadows kit, which is 2 play mats, like 5 chain trackers, some deck boxes, and some other stuff. So all that will be given away. Have those cardboard house token sets, 12 total sets of those to give away. So 12 people will win those. And then after that, we're going to have a strict number per number of players that add. We're just going to add boxes of new product to give away as prizes. We haven't actually settled exactly on distribution for all the prizes because, me, I like random giveaways and giveaways for silly things. Like, there's definitely going to be a giveaway for the Coda deck with the most wins, the AOA deck with the most wins, Growth Collides, and Education, right? So each set will have a prize there. They haven't decided what those are all going to be exactly yet. Something for us to work on. But we'll basically be turning all the entry into prize support purchased through the store. So they get to make a little bit cost, and then we get to give away a ton of prizes.
Sounds like a blast. I will start scouring my collection for anything that I can use. Although in the back of my head, I have 4 janky decks that are like right around 73 SAS. They're all so janky, it is very unlikely together that they would win an event just because they're randomly going to be good or bad in any game. I do kind of feel like that might be what I enter, just because it would be fun to have this janky 4 survival set.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's half the fun right now, is trying to go ahead and figure out these events. What deck are you playing? What is the meta going to look like with the 75 SAS cap? What is it looking like when you have one deck from each of the different sets? Mm-hmm. And, how do you match up? Where do you place the order? Where do you place the order
you put them? Yep. Yeah, that's the big one. I think that is... Mm-hmm. I think the person who wins this is going to be the person who cleverly chose, did not do the Ewok thing. They actually chose good decks. and then they cleverly put them in the order that was the most effective about the time that they'd be playing certain decks. What that means, I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about it. I'm just hearing all of the details now. I knew some of this. We've discussed it, but it'll be a very interesting thing to consider in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely like if there's a good number of players pulling down this win of 4 decks true survival, right? Because we're running this as true survival. There's no cut to top cut.
And whoever wins, like to date, will at that date will be able to say that you're the only person to win a 4 deck survival, all 4 set Keyforge event for sure. So there's never been one.
And get a respectable prize for doing it.
Yeah.
So, but that's not all I got to give away, right? So that's one event. So, hit us up on our Discord. Give us some feedback on that. Got to make decisions quick, though. If we were thinking about February 20th and 27th. Have not set that. I might push that out a little bit. That you gotta look at what other events. But yeah, come give us your feedback on this one if you think you'd be interested, or if you think I'm crazy. Let me know. But
when do you think people will be able to sign up, and where will they be able to do that?
Well, we will most definitely advertise it on Archon Corner Discord. That's really where most information you can find about our events. You got to come to our Discord, which is always a link in the show notes. That's where you're going to find the most up-to-date for all of our events.
Cool.
Once we actually have a registration.
We might even know someone who does a podcast that we could probably share that information again next week.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so the other thing we want, right, Code 8 registrations are open. So this is a fast-capped event where you bring a team of 3 players, and then each week, week 1 you're starting with 60 SAS stacks. Week 2 you can step up to 62 SAS, and it's climbing each week. And then I think when you go to finals, it's resetting. My understanding of Ewok and I think, are forming a team. Verify if our standard third player is that, but we're planning to form a team. But you know what? It's time for Archon's Corner to show up and be a presence in this event. So here's my plan. I've got all these prize kits, so I'm going to give one away. One of these whole disc kits that we have, which again, if you find the Dr. Sheep 422 Twitch, you can watch me open all this stuff and see what's in them. So this is 2 prize mats, a bunch of chain trackers, and all kind of stuff. That whole kit is going to go to the team who has AC in their name, so it's capital A, capital C in your team name. However you want to use it as a pun. You just want to use your name and say, on Team AC, however you want to do it, as long as it's clear that the capital A and the capital C are for this. Whatever team finishes highest is going to get this kit. I'll ship it to you. I know there's tons of internationals, and it's going to kill me to ship it. Some international team, pocketbook-wise. But I'm going to do it. That's fine. So I want to see more coat teams. I want to see coat 8 teams with AC in the name. I want everybody to see us. And I'm willing to pay for those rights a little bit, right? So do good and then win awesome disc prize.
All right. You know what, Dan? I'll support your movement. I was not planning on playing in Code 8 for like Team SAS or anything. If there is an AC regular who's, I'd have to be able to recognize your name from the channel, being in our events or whatnot, that wants me on their team, I'm not going to be the team captain. I'm not going to organize all the decks. I'm not going to reach out to all the other players that organize all the events each week. But I will happily play on an AC team if someone needs a third player under the AC banner. The first person that is organizing a team that pings me in the channel for AC, say, I want you for Code 8, I will join your team as one of your 3 players.
Quick, Ewok, claim him.
Support AC.
Yeah,
Dan, I will not play on Dan's team.
No,
he wants to win. I won't play with him.
The whole goal to support AC and more teams.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to see, one, the support coming for being able to play. I know the event and kind of your repertoire and your interest in this, Z. So thank you. And thanks, Sheep, for going ahead and throwing out the whole disc kit. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. But that's what we have them for. So let's go ahead and represent in Code 8. Let's have some fun. And all you got to do is add the letters AC into your name. So let's do it.
Yeah. So we also have 2 store championships, another disc kit, a dino kit, and
Reversal Store Championship. I don't know where that came from.
I heard a crazy man.
Are we going through a tunnel?
And then we do have a second Shadows kit, right?
Another
one. So I need help coming up with some other really cool events that we can run, right? Those store championships can definitely support a pretty cool event. All I really got to do is cover the cost of the kit, so entry fee.
Is the store championship kit the Crash Muldoon?
Yes.
That's a cool looking mat. I got one fairly recently. I really liked it. It's very, very bright and like the colors are rich. It's cool. I like it.
It's got a lot of hair.
Yeah. It's a cool mat.
Yeah. No, it's a cool prize kit. It also has deck boxes and what else has got it?
The deck box has Val Jericho, and then I think it's also Muldoon on the other side, but it does have Val Jericho on there. So yeah, really good choices for their OP support.
The dial chain trackers.
Mm-hmm.
We all know we're going to need more train trackers coming up.
Oh yeah, the Dark Tidings are coming.
Then it's got the metal armor tokens and the plastic stun tokens, the acrylic ones. Like it's a pretty nice kit. Lots of stuff.
I think their store championship has gotten better. So I like that.
It's not Brobnar.
Yeah, it's not Brobnar. I like the Bingle Bang Bang mat too. The only play mat they have produced for like their OP stuff that was abysmal was the Marauder. Like, why would you pick the worst card in this set of lots of bad cards? I mean, I guess Phosphorus Stars is the first, but it's real bad. And that was the freaking thing everyone had for a while.
Yeah, they're still available. Like I still see stores. I know some of my local stores still have them, and they're holding on to them. Like they're gonna have Keyforge events, and that's gonna draw people in.
I was giving them away for new players for a long time, and I think I still have like 8 of those.
Yeah, but I have more prize kits, so I want to run more events. I like interesting ones. I like fun ones. I like silly stuff. So if anybody has ideas for events, I'm open to suggestions. Doesn't mean I will run them because if it's too much work, I'm not going to do it.
Someone might ping Dave and be like, I want a triad.
I will support the triad, but not with anything good. I'll go find a Mars play kit.
It takes so long. Like that's what? 4.5 hours per round? No way.
No, that sounds terrible.
All right, I think that's it. We got anything else, Ewok? You're the one that keeps us honest.
No, we have some spoilers that are still there in the background, so go support all of the other podcasters, all of our streamers, all of the content providers. I do have to go ahead and say you guys were both right earlier with Ariak was running Coda deck, so correct to you, and I'm wrong. So thanks for keeping me honest. But no, honestly, this is where we're at. So enjoy Keyforge, keep playing, have some fun with our events. We do have some events that are here, Chainbound.
Yeah, we
Sunday.
have regular events.
Yep.
And I believe it's Tuesdays and Sundays now can get you on the leaderboard for your store.
Oh, it is a huge battle, and there's so much fun on the Discord actually going back and forth between everyone who's there. We must take down the leader. So I love that.
First, so we're coming up on that deadline. So if you're in contention or you want to make your name for next month, start of February will be in about 8 days from now. So if you haven't invested in getting on the AC leaderboard for Kryptonite.
Yep.
Kryptonite games.
Yep. Check back in on February and try to earn your top 4 spot. If you're in contention or you just want to check it out, Tuesdays and Sundays will get you on the board.
Yep. And there's 2 events. Tuesday is sealed. Right now we are doing Mass Mutation Sealed. It's an $8 entry, which gets you the deck, and then at some point you have to pay to have it shipped to you, whether you want the deck or play the whole month and have me ship all the decks at once. Whatever works for you, works for me. But those are $8 Mass Mutation decks. And then we also have Sunday Chain Bounds. There are also Thursday Chain Bounds, but those do not count for this.
True. I think that's a wrap. If anyone is playing a sealed KFBL, I'm sure I'll see you Saturday. Other than that, keep on forging. See you in Chainbound.
Forge those keys.
I went from human to Martian. I'm sick and I might just relapse. So then I'll keep killing these rappers just so I can relax. They say my songs are like COVID, so I think you might need a mask, or it'll be harder to cope with, and you'll see your life in a flash. I went from human to Martian. I'm sick and I might just relapse. So then I'll keep killing these rappers just so I can relax. Mark!